Hello again, and welcome to LanguageBox.co. This is the business course, Upper Intermediate, Unit 1, Meet the Company. And this is part 2 of the video lesson. And in this part of the lesson, we're going to be looking at different tenses. We're going to be looking at the various present tenses and various past tenses. We're going to be looking at what situations do we use these tenses and looking at a few examples. So we'll begin with the present tenses, the various present tenses, and then we'll look at the past tenses. So a logical place to start is with present simple. And there are three functions of present simple tense. The first is to tell us permanent facts. For example, I'm Spanish. Some other examples, for example, the sun rises in the east, the sun sets in the west. It's always true, it's a fact, and for this we use present simple. We also use present simple to talk about our routines. I usually arrive home at 8 p.m. So things that we do every day, routines. I get up at 7 o'clock, I have a shower, I eat my breakfast, I go to work, I finish work at 5 o'clock, I go home, I eat dinner, I watch TV, I go to bed. All of these things, they're a routine, and we use present simple. And there's another use of present simple which people often forget about, and it's scheduled future events. And you can think of these things as being connected with timetables. For example, the bus leaves at 6 p.m. It's going to happen in the future, but because it's a scheduled event, we can use present simple. The flight leaves at 11:15, for example. My bus arrives at 4 o'clock. Even though it's the future, we can use present simple tense. So that leads us on to the present continuous tense. And we use this tense to talk about current events, activities and situations. They may be current and maybe also perhaps temporary. For example, I'm staying at the Sheraton Hotel. I'm not going to be there permanently is an example of a temporary event. I'm reading this exercise to you is an example of something which is happening now, a current event. And present continuous also has a future use, and we use it for future arrangements. If you made an arrangement to do something. And an example, for example, I'm meeting the boss at 10:30 a.m. I've spoken to him, we've agreed the time, it's an arrangement. So for this we can use present continuous. Another one of our present tenses is the present perfect tense. A very useful tense, a very interesting tense, and again, various different functions. And the function that probably most people know most about is the function to talk about things which have started in the past and continue up to the present. And as our example here, I've worked here for 2 years. I came here 2 years ago, and I'm still here now. So the present perfect tense, we use this function to link the past and the present together. Now, the second use for present perfect tense is the experiences, to talk about experience. And this is the key point here, especially when we don't mention when they happened. So for example, I've been on 3 training courses. We don't say when. Now, if you want to say when they happen, then we need to use a different tense. We would have to use past simple tense. I went on a training course last year, for example. But because we don't mention time, we need to use present perfect. I've been to Paris. We don't say when. I've ridden a horse. No mention of time. Okay, so our final use of present perfect tense is to talk about things which maybe happened in the past, but have an influence or a result in the present. And again, it's similar to our first function of linking the past and the present. So our example here is, I've broken the photocopier. The action happened in the past, but I can see that the photocopy is broken now, so there's a connection with the past and the present. And to make this connection, we must use the present perfect tense. So I've broken the photocopier. Now, some useful words, which if you see these words, they're always a big clue that the tense is going to be present perfect. And some of these present perfect words are already, and yet, and since. So if you see these words in a sentence, very often it's going to be a present perfect tense sentence. Okay, so let's move on. And our final present tense is the present perfect continuous. And we use this tense to talk about temporary situations that started in the past and may or may not have been completed. So our example here is that I've been working hard all day and I'm completely exhausted. And especially this tense suggests that it's a long action in the past that's started in the past and may be continuing up to the present, or it's also possible for it to have finished in the past, but there is some connection with the present. So for example, here we can see I'm completely exhausted is an effect in the present caused by something in the past. So again, with our perfect tense, we've got this link with the past and the present. Now we're going to move on to the past tenses, and the first tense is simple past, and very easy here. We use this tense to talk about finished states or actions, especially when we know when they happened. I left my job in 2010. And especially simple past we use to tell stories in the past, to describe a sequence of events. Yesterday I got up at 8 o'clock, I ate my breakfast, then I went to work, I worked very hard all day, and I went home about 5 o'clock. This happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. We use simple past for this function. And some simple past words, which give you the big clue, it's going to be simple past tense, are last week, last year, last month, or ago. If you see any of these words, they're a big clue that it's going to be simple past tense. Now, move on to past continuous, and we use this tense to talk about long actions and actions which are in progress at a specific time in the past. I was working in France at this time last year. At 4 o'clock yesterday, I was writing the report. So if we want to look back to a particular time in the past and think about what was happening, especially if it's a long action, what was happening, then we use this tense, the past continuous tense. And we can also use past continuous to give us some background information about more important events, which are often in the past simple. So we often see sentences with past continuous and the past simple together in the one sentence. Like in this example here. I was talking to the CEO when you came in. I was writing the report when the phone rang. To give background information about when an important event happened. And another one of our past tenses is the past perfect. And this tense has got a very special function, and it allows us to do something, especially to make things clear. And it helps us to make clear, and this brings us to our last tense, the past perfect tense, and this has got a very special function. This tense makes it clear that one event happened before another in the past. Okay, so imagine both of our events happened in the past, and we want to say event A happened before event B. And in order to do this, for event A, we need to use the past perfect. So if you look at our example here, when I arrived at the airport, the plane had already left. We've got two actions here. I arrived at the airport, the plane left. And if we want to know that the plane left is the action that happened first, the way that we do this is to use the past perfect tense. Okay, so those are our tenses. Now let's have a look at an example exercise. In this exercise, we've got two choices, and we need to decide which choice would be most suitable for completing this particular sentence. We need to decide which tense do we need to use. So let's have a look at number 1. According to this timetable, the bus at 9 p.m. Well, if you remember, we talked about timetables with simple present. And our simple present option is leaves. So according to this timetable, the bus leaves at 9 p.m. So let's have a look at number 2. And we can see the end of our sentence is as soon as the seminar ends. So we know it's going to be a future. This is a future time phrase, as soon as the seminar ends. So the tense that we can use for arrangements in the future, if you remember, is it's the present continuous tense. So the correct option is I am meeting Tom as soon as the seminar ends. Number 3, my department head usually is working or works till about 6:30 p.m. Do you remember this word usually? Which tense do we use that word usually with? Yes, it's the simple present tense. Things that we do, it was a routine function, things that we do every day. So our answer for number 3 is going to be the simple present answer. My department head usually works till about 6:30 p.m. Now, number 4, we've got similar options, works or is working. But let's have a look at the key word in the sentence here, which is right now. It's happening right now. So the tense for things happening right now, if you remember, was the present continuous tense. So our option for number 4 is going to be Susan is working on an important assignment right now. Now for number 5, our two options here, my colleague is working or has worked here since January. And the function of this sentence is to tell us he came here in January and he's still working now. We need to link the past and the present. And our linking past and present tense was the present perfect tense. So our option here is the present perfect option. My colleague has worked here since January. So let's move on to number 6. When I got to work in the morning, John was flirting or John flirted with a new girl in the office. So it's a past time. We can tell by the first part of the sentence, when I got to work in the morning, happened in the past. John was flirting or John flirted with a new girl in the office. Is it a long action or a short finished action? Is it background information or is it a main event? Well, I think it's background information to tell you what was happening when I got to work this morning. And background information was the past continuous tense. So our correct option here is going to be John was flirting with a new girl in the office. Okay, number 7. Stefan makes or Stefan has made several presentations, so I don't think he'll be nervous. Now, we want to suggest here that Stefan in the past did these presentations. So the first option, Stefan makes, is not going to be possible. It's going to be our second option, the present perfect option. Stefan has made several presentations, so I don't think he'll be nervous. And do you remember which function this was? Yes, it was the experience. When we talk about things that we've done and we don't mention time. So for number 7, Stefan has made several presentations, so I don't think he'll be nervous. Now, number 8. Did you attend or had you attended the conference last week? And our key word here is, well, our key words are last week. And if you remember, last week, last month, last year, usually we use with the simple past tense. So our correct option is going to be, did you attend the conference last week? Now, number 9, you look tired. What have you been doing, or what have you done? So we need to talk about the past here, and we can see a result in the present. You look tired, and there must be a reason why you look tired. So what is the reason? This is what we're asking you, and it must be something you've done. So it must be something that's occurred over a reasonably long period of time. So our more suitable answer for this one is going to be, for long actions in the past, is the present perfect continuous. What have you been doing? You might not be doing it now, but I can see the result in the present, that you're tired. It tells me that you've been doing something in the past. Okay, so that takes us on to number 10. When I finally arrived, the staff meeting had finished, or when I finally arrived, the staff meeting has finished. Well, we've got two actions here, and for this sentence we need to make it clear for the reader the order in which they happened. And if you remember, the tense that allows us to do that is the past continuous tense. It allows us to tell the reader that this action happened before the other action. So I arrived was the second action, the staff meeting had finished was the earlier action. So for this we've got, when I finally arrived, the staff meeting, past perfect, had finished. So that's the end of our grammar exercise. I hope that's all clear to you. Now you can move on to the online platform and the follow-up exercises. So thank you for your attendance. I hope all this has been clear for you. Please go to the follow-up exercises on LanguageBox.co, and I hope to see you again for Unit 2 on the video lessons. Okay, goodbye.